everybody, my name is Cheri. Welcome to another one of my how-to series videos. Today we are going to do another one of the basics. So we are going to hit several of the basics over the next few weeks, and then we'll veer off into a few other things, maybe like how to tie some bows and how to make some little pom-poms. We'll get into some other how-tos, and I'm still taking ideas. So I envision this, we're now in November. This will probably go through February because I've gotten tons and tons of requests. Y'all have lots of things that you'd like to know how to do. So if you have one, let me know, and I am making a list. So don't think, oh, I asked her about that and now it's been 2 weeks and she hasn't got to it, because I have a long list. And I also have people who've asked more, like one idea that has been asked by more than one person. So they're getting there, but I am starting with some of the basic things. And then this way too, if you have a friend who's new to stamping, you can always in the future go back and redirect them to some of these, because I'm going to try to keep them short and very narrow. Like we're going to do ink pads today, which also covers a little bit of ink refills, but we're just going to use the ink refill for the ink pad. And then later on, I'll do some ink refills when you use the refills not to refill a pad, but for art. So that's kind of the way I'm going to do it. So for today, we're going to do ink refills. Now, this is 2020-2021 catalog, and there's some of my upcoming classes. So if you are looking at this in another year, still the same concept always. There's some of my top sellers. I have all of my little notes in here. So the chart may be different if you're looking at this in a different year. And I do have an old ink pad I'm going to show you in a second. This is the third or fourth variation of ink pads since I've been a demonstrator, which is getting close to 30 years. And this is a brand new one. So I think I got it at a Stampin' Up event because I already had the color, and I haven't done a ton of large in-person events. So I always had 2 full sets of ink pads, and I haven't had to open the second full set. But when you look at Stampin' Up, now we have our 48 stock colors. Those do rotate. Not very often, maybe every 5, 6, 7 years, they will rotate the 48 colors. But for now, these are our 48 basic colors. So we have 4 color families, and then we have our basic colors. So in these, you can see we have our brights, our neutrals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 40 basic colors. You know, it's been a long time. There used to be 12, and then we had some of the neutrals that were separate. It's been a minute, you know, and they changed things in 30 years. So I was doing math in my head. So we have 40 basic colors: the brights, the neutrals, the regals, and the subtles. And then these are sometimes where they get switched around, and they will take out in colors and add them in according to popularity, and according, you know, colors, just trends change over time. So this is Poppy Parade, and you can find Poppy in the Brights collection. Now all of my 30 years ever since we've had our own colors, which we didn't have our own colors, Stampin' Up didn't when I started, and we had somebody else's inks. But ever since we've had our own, you've been able to buy them in a group of colors. Like you could buy the Brights, and I'm going to show you the refills that are that way. Because of COVID, who knew that during my 30 years we would have a pandemic, and the supply chain issues that we've faced because of that. Right now, you cannot buy the collection of colors. They do come at a 10% discount, but right now, because it's too hard for them to keep all of the colors in stock, and I'll talk about that in a second when I get to the refills. But you can buy each individual color. And then every year, we introduce 5 in colors. Now these are colors that are trendy, and often if you take the in colors, like if you would just cut this little chart out and take this up to the store with you and go like to TJ Maxx or Marshall's or Macy's, anywhere where you shop for ladies' clothes, and take this over into the clothing department, you'd see all clothes in those colors, because these are the trendy in colors. These are the colors that are in right now. In 3 years, you might not see any of those colors at all. Another place to take them is Old Navy. Like every year when you take these in colors to Old Navy, those are the colors that you would see. So these are the 2022. They last for 2 years and then they're gone. But in a couple of years, if they revamp all the colors, 1 or 2 of these may make it back in as they take some of these out. So that's kind of how our colors work. So let's start with the stamp pad. You get them like this. They're always shrink wrapped. That's the word. So I'm gonna do this new one because sometimes and because it's been a minute since I've done large in-person events, But we did, and I like my in-person events because sometimes then I realize, oh, I haven't covered this in a while. So when you get it, when you open this style of ink pad, it's like a compact. And the first time you do it, it may be a little bit harder to open. And this one is. And it's partly because I'm trying not to get my fingers red. So once you have it open the first time, open and shut it. And then open and shut it. And after you've done it 3 or 4 times, it gets way easier. So don't think the first time you do it, oh, it's going to stay that hard. It just needs to be open and shut. Then after you've done it a few times, see, it's getting easier and easier. So much easier. Now, these are designed so the ink, as it's stored, that the ink itself is always on the bottom of the pad. So the ink is settling down there, which keeps it nice and top on your ink pad. So even, you can tell, now we flipped it up. But when you store it, the ink is going down on top. So they are designed for you to take it like this, slide it in until it locks. And again, sometimes, I know some people put wax on the sides of these so they slide in a little bit better. You can do the same thing where you just sit here and mess with it. Sometimes if I was going to do this, I would get a tissue or something just to hold it. But the more times you slide it, the easier it gets. If you watch my videos very often, you know I don't use my ink pads like that. I just think it takes a little bit longer. As you get older, your hands start to dry out, and you can see already it's dug into my skin because my skin's dry and it's old and it's not pretty anymore. So I just use mine like this. And if you have arthritis and these ink pads are hard for you to operate, just use them like that. You do not have to slide them back. I know that's how they're designed, but you don't have to do it. So just take them, put it like this. I didn't get any paper because I didn't anticipate stamping, but I'm going to. Brand new ink pad, put it like this. This is from my nephew's. Well, I was trying to do it so you can see it. Put it just like that and just stamp. So it's the same concept. Now when I go to shut it, it's like this, and all I have to do is shut it like that. I find it's easier than the opening and the shoving back. The only time that you do have to do it is if you are inking a really large stamp. See, now it's a whole lot easier. So then, even then, I don't shove it all the way in. Sometimes at my in-person events, they shove it all the way in, and they're like, I can't pull that back out. And I'm like, you shoved it in there. You need to pull it back. And it's partly because mine aren't primed like that. But you can put some soap or some candle wax right here if yours are a little bit grippy. Again, the more you pull them in and out, the more that they will be ready. But if you put it just like that and you need to ink a large stamp, that's enough. And it gives you way more than just this little bit here. And if you have nails, it makes it even harder, I think, to pull those out. So that's how you use it. Now, the other thing that happened at my camp is they were like, how come yours always have the names right here? Well, yours do too. And if you've often wondered why mine have the names right here and yours don't, it's just because you haven't added them. So this little sticker part right here, the whole thing is designed to come up. I very rarely pull mine up because you can see it has the English and the German and French maybe, and then the Japanese. Although we're not in the Japanese market anymore, so maybe those will come off, and then it has this nice blank one. So you can pull the whole thing off if you want. I guess on this one I will. See, it's got this little place here. And it pulls this part up. So there's 2 pieces that come up. First, this whole piece right here comes up. And so here's my Poppy Parade. So the one that's in English, right here. The rest is trash. Unless you can think of something fabulous you want to do with it. There's probably somebody that has. So that one goes right here. So just pop this on here. I usually start with the middle because it's easier to control that. Just lay that on here. And then I like to take a bone folder and just press that. So that one is designed to be used like that. Now you have these left back here. So usually I take the one that I can still kind of figure out what this is. Some of them are super easy. Sometimes I haven't finished them. So this is saffron, and it says saffron. So right here in another language, it still says saffron, not spelled the way in English that we would. Never the Japanese can I figure out. Saffron is a color that I would know. Poppy used to be a color that I would know, but sometimes an in color, you're like, what is that color? So if I can figure this out, I do love that it says blood orange. So I'm going to take the blood orange and peel this one up. And put it right. That's the one that you get, and it goes inside of here. Now this is another time that you can use your bone folder. And it goes right inside this little piece right here. And if you don't have a bone folder, you're gonna need something to kind of press it down in there. Or you can just do them all at once and get your hands dirty and then go wash them off really well. But press it down in there. If you just use your fingers, unless you have really tiny fingers, it's going to get your fingers dirty, because that's a pretty narrow little opening. Then if you have the Stampin' Up! Storage cases, I highly, highly, highly recommend them. I don't, because if you've seen the tour of my office video, you know that my husband built me a giant storage case before Stampin' Up! Had storage units. The same for my blends. So I don't have this storage, and see, I've already got ink on me. But you can take one of the others, because sometimes even when I'm, well, if I'm going fast is when it really happens. I stick them in backwards, and if you stick them in backwards, then on this side there's nothing. So at least this way, I know that that was Poppy that got in there. Now, along the sides of the thing that my husband built me, and on some of our storage units, there are enough spaces that if you take this piece here, oops, and cut these edges off, I'll do the Japanese one. So cut this down, and let me show you. I should have opened this before I stuck stickers on me. Let's see what other notes I have in here. So when you have your storage units, you can take this little piece here, and if you lay it underneath, like right inside the little lip, then when your pad's not in there, you know that's where my Poppy goes. And you can see right here is where your Poppy marker. So if everything's out, then you know that's where it goes. And the same for your blends over here. I just had somebody ask me how I store my blends, and we'll do a how-to with blends. On mine that my husband made me, I can add these down along the sides because my sides are wider. It's made out of wood. But you can take this little piece and stick it. This is the blend one right here. See, it fits inside this little piece right here. So when your Poppy blends are in here, you can take both of these Poppy, have a Poppy and a Poppy, and use those little pieces right here. And then when your Poppy blends aren't in there, you're like, my Poppy blends are missing. And if one dries out, like sometimes happens to me, and I throw them out, and then I spend an hour looking for my light Poppy blend, and then later I'm like, I think I threw that out because it was empty. Then you know it's not there because your Poppy thing is empty. So that's a way that you can use the remaining part of these stickers. Then these are designed so they stack. So if you don't have the storage system, or you're taking your stuff on the road and you want them to stack, this piece here does need to come all the way off. Always make sure that these snap all the way shut, otherwise they'll dry up. Not all the way dry up, but they will suck your ink up faster than they have to. And sometimes I even come back into my office the next day and I'm like, I didn't shut that all the way. Because if you're stamping and stamping and you don't know that you're done, let's see, this comes all the way off. So you should be left with just this piece here. So just pull this off, and then that will give you a more flush. I'll get the rest of that off in a second. So see this, these little 4 dots here will fit inside these 4 dots here, and it fits better if you do remove that little extra piece of sticker. Now to refill these, if you used to have these old ones, look, I never even opened it. So this is an old style of ink pad. And see how this says classic Stampin' pad? The old style of ink is different that goes in here. Now you can use, if you have the old style of ink pad and you buy the new ink refills, they can go into this. It is not recommended that you put this refill into this pad. And so I know some of you are already thinking, how do I know which refill I have? I'm gonna make it super, super easy for you. Well, I should have, maybe not. I should have gotten a better color. So you can see this classic right here is written in cursive, and it says classic Stampin' Pat. So cursive, and then this. If you look at these new ones, and I don't have a copy, so let's pretend that I do. The new ones are written in classic with Stampin' Pat or Stampin' Ink in a rectangle, so they match. So if you have the new pad and you need to ink it in a new refill, this has some defoaming stuff in it, and it makes it not foam up. If you have the old one, sometimes when you put the refill in there, you would notice it bubbled up a little bit. So it doesn't, it will be okay if you put it in here, but if you put this in here, it's gonna add foamy in this, and these are a little bit thinner and you don't want that foam. So you can save these. You can still use them in your old pads, and you can use these for art. And when we do the how-to in your refills, any of these that you have that have the old label, save those and use those for your art, and save these and use them for your new. But I did want to show you, for one, here's what I do. So I have bought, this is how your ink refills come if you buy them in a color family. It's beautiful to look at. But what I did, I haven't done it with this one yet, or maybe I did and I put it back. I took out the ones that looked like this. So let's replace. This is the old and this is the new. I can tell because this is cursive. And this one has the rectangle. It's easier to see, I'm sure, on video in the poppy. So this is the new one. So I just took these and I put this out with my pads, and then I put all the old ones in here. And I know the old ones I can use for any kind of art, like if I'm going to spritz with them, if I'm going to mix them with some acrylic paint, any of the art stuff I want to do, completely fine to use for that. So let's re-ink this. So when you go to re-ink, and re-ink, especially these light colors like saffron, do it fairly often. If you use, don't use them for this, because again, that's going to get in here. But wrong one. If you use a blending brush, then that's sucking this ink right out of here. So what you want to do is you take your ink refill, and you're going to kind of put it on diagonal. So just kind of get the whole thing on here. And if you do it this way, it should be good to go right after you re-ink it. So you're going to take it like that, then take a plastic spoon or your bone folder. I prefer to use my bone folder because I don't often have a plastic spoon laying in my office. I always have a bone folder. It does stain your bone folder, as you can see by my stained bone folder. I chose the saffron because I knew that this was a good color that you could see. See how it's smearing it all in there? So you could even take a distinctive stamp, which I should have gotten one out. But you can take a stamp and you just wipe this off. Let's see. I have some evergreens. How about if we get some saffron evergreens? I'm just gonna stamp some saffron evergreens on the back of this house, Happy Housewarming. But a lot of people think that you have to wait. Now, if you have put a lot of ink or you have a super really detailed, you might want to give it 5 minutes or so, but it should be good to go. And that is if you do it this way. If you just dot it all on there and you have a bunch of dots, then it's not good to go. So that is how you re-ink it. And then it's ready. And if you don't use a blending brush or you're not smushing it down on here, and it depends on, it's just hard to say because it depends on how much you stamp, if you're the only one that uses your pads, and then always make sure you click it shut. Now, I don't like to use baby wipes to clean my stamps because it sticks all that fiber, especially in photopolymer. If you clean these, if you use your wet wipes to clean photopolymer, do I have one? Did I stamp it? Well, I do, but it's not, it was this one here. But if you have a more detailed one, it gets all of the fibers from this, and then you end up with hairy looking stamps because the fibers of this come on there. This one's not bad because it's a pretty bold stamp. But it's great for cleaning these off. It's great for cleaning your stamp pads because your stamp pads get dirty. I got this one dirty when we were doing it just a minute ago, but it takes all that ink right off. I just cleaned mine the other day, so none of them are terribly dirty. When I do camps, we stick everything down in a bucket, and so they stick dirty stamps on top of it, and sometimes by the end of camp, they are a hot mess. All it takes is a rub over this, and they're clean. So that's how to with the ink pad and how to refill and how to get the most use out of your fun little stickers and how to use them then on your storage units that Stampin' Up! Sells. And again, make sure that I hope it was a helpful tip on how to know which of your refills may have been the older ones and which ones are your new ones. Everybody have a great day. And if you have something that you'd like to know how to use, shoot me an email and I would be more than happy to feature it for you. Have a great one. Bye.